Slane Castle may be home to an incredible history and Ireland's best outdoor concert venue, but the future looks rosy thanks to an Irish tradition. And recently, they've opened a new distillery here. Irish whiskey is distinctly different to Scottish and American whiskey, so I'm catching up with the Earl of Mount Charles, Alex Cunningham, to discover what it's all about. Well, mate, I can't believe how this area has changed. It was totally different the last time I was here.
Completely changed. So this was traditionally working stables, and we did a complete restoration. The roof behind us is totally new. These buildings were totally restored. What it is now is a working Irish whiskey distillery, and that's what we're going to go and see today, is whiskey in the making. So this is actually our micro malting. And this is where we show how the barley that grows on the fields immediately around the distillery on our own land, how we take it from barley to malt. So we steep the grain, which then sucks in the moisture, plumps up, it goes further as the oxygen gets to it, and it starts to sprout. Now you've got to get rid of the moisture, so the next step is to put it into a kiln like this, and then we end up with the final product, which is malt. It's got a lovely biscuity flavour, and this is our raw material for making our triple distilled malt whiskey.
Now here's some infrastructure. What have we got here?
So we're now in the mash house. So the barley has gone through the mill house behind the wall there, where it's been ground down, splitting out the husk from the grain.
Alex explains that this is where the fermentation process begins. The added yeast turns the natural sugars that are present into alcohol, the foundation of the whiskey. The base raw materials are one thing, but the distilling process is another. And Alex explains that the number of times the liquid is distilled affects the taste and clarity of the whiskey. What is the difference between traditional sour mash whiskey, American bourbon whiskey, Irish whiskey and Scotch whiskey?
Firstly, American whiskey has to go into new oak barrels. If it's going to be bourbon, it's got to be made in America, and the mash bill's got to be at least 51% corn. Now, Scotch and Irish, there are some myths there that it's fun to correct. So people say Irish whiskey is triple distilled. Well, we do believe in that here at Slane, so we have 3 pot stills in our still house. However, there are double distilled Irish whiskies. If you go to Scotland, it's not all double distilled either. There are also triple distilled Scotches.
The last thing in the process is aging, and it seems the older the whiskey, the better it is. The barrels have something to do with that.
So I'm going to pour you a little bit of Slane, which is our blend of malt and grain whiskies. We use 3 different barrels at the same time to build the flavour profile. And these 3 barrels are right here in front of us. So we'll start with the virgin American oak barrel.
Thank you.
And this one is how they make American whiskies. We then put some of our whiskey into it. So have a little nose of your whiskey. You hopefully get that vanilla hit. And now I'd like you to just have a little nose there. See if you can pick up that vanilla. The second barrel we call our seasoned cask. And it is actually a Tennessee whiskey barrel. So it has previously had Tennessee whiskey in the barrel. Shipped over from there. It's going to have a little bit of that whiskey in there to keep it wet so it doesn't dry out. That is carrying directly over, and that's going to give you a nice heavy, like Demerara sugar note. Now, I have a particular fondness for sherry casks, which came really from my grandfather's love of sherry cask whiskies, and this comes from Jerez. So it's just nice, like a nice, long, lingering finish, bit of spice there at the end. And now you nose that barrel, see if you can get that lovely fruit cake finish to it. Yeah, so it's really so 3 totally different barrels, all matured at the same time, and then we actually blend it together. And that's what Slane Irish Whiskey, the triple cask blend is.
And that's why your whiskey's got such a unique taste profile.
Yeah, totally different to still very much an Irish, but definitely distinct to us.
Wow.
So there you go, so Sláinte.
Cheers.